Now that we've opened up the body and the parasympathetic nervous system through our breathing practice, followed by myofascial release, and then into some choice mobility drills, it's time to get going with some stretching. We're gonna start with some of my preferred upper body stretches. Now, first one I go to on a daily basis, whether I'm doing the full long stretch routine or just waking up in the morning feeling a bit tight. I'm gonna do a child's pose. Now, on a nice mat to cushion the knees, my knees are separated toward the ends of the mat and my feet are directly under me. My toes are close as if they're touching. Done correctly, this frees up the lower back and stretches the lats in a fantastic manner. So from here, I'm going to reach forward, and once I get to my terminus, I might keep on pushing just a bit, rocking my arms fully in that overhead position that we use so often with kettlebell training. I'm already feeling a big stretch in my lats. As I perform this stretch, I'm inhaling and exhaling very slow and rhythmically. So what I'm going to do is tuck my head all the way underneath and start my breathing. Continuing to rock my hips back. I like to set a standard pace of maybe 7 really deep inhales and exhales instead of holding these stretches for times. Every time I'm exhaling, I'm pushing my palms down. And the more I settle into this position, the more I feel my low back starting to free up. And if I'm particularly tight, what I'll do is I'll do some reps. So let's pretend I'm stretching out my right side. I just kind of move underneath, getting my head underneath my arm. And if that's not enough, what I would do to stretch my right lat is move my arms all the way to the side. So now my right lat is in a very elongated position. And I can move my chest from side to side. And right here, I feel a big tight spot in the lat. Again, as I exhale, just rocking further into that stretch, trying to open up that overhead position, all the while getting a nice relaxing effect in the lower back. And balancing out this left side. My left side's usually a bit tighter from an old shoulder injury. And yeah, I can really feel that. Just staying nice and relaxed. It's important to note while doing these stretches, don't push your stretches. It's not like strength training. You can definitely get injured while stretching. And I'll be honest, most of my injuries over the past 15 years have come from stretching. Yeah, it's funny like that. So I like to think of pushing maybe into a 4 or 5 out of 10 on my stretches. And if it feels sketchy, you got to back off. So arms feeling looser from that child's pose, and then the off the side variations with some prying in there. What I like to do next, rock forward. So my shoulders are directly above my hands. I'm going to go onto my elbows. And this crossbody stretch happens like this. I'm going to get my left arm and thread it all the way under. On this stretch, the magic happens by doing an active push of my left palm into the floor. I'm going to stack my right hand on top. I'm going to push my elbow and my hand hard into the floor. And now I'm going to pry a bit right around that shoulder blade and try and open my chest toward the camera. I feel big stretch across my rhomboids and in my upper back. Just doing some reps here. And I'll switch sides. Now the opposite. So pushing my right hand down, big stretch in my rhomboids and upper back, and I'm really pulling my left shoulder toward the ceiling, trying to open my chest toward these clubs here. And as I exhale, I just let my body sink deeper into the stretching position. Okay. So those are some great stretches for the lats and the upper back and even the lower back right there. Let's move on to the prone series. I'm a big fan of this series because Like most people, my chest gets very tight and I go into that kyphotic posture with really shortened muscles, and what manifests? A lot of neck pain, a lot of upper back and neck pain in the back as well. So it's always worth it to do some self-myofascial release on the pecs and the shoulders before stretching them. So in a prone position, for me, I like to, at first, tuck my tailbone to make sure my posture is good. I'm going to be stretching my right pec first, bringing my arm up to about a 90-degree angle. I'm going to use my left hand and arm for assistance. I'm going to start with some easy scorpions of my left leg. I'm going to exhale as I do it, assess my tightness. Feels pretty tight, so I might do some reps here. Maybe about 5 reps before I hold the stretch. So really gentle, guys. So remember, about a 5 out of 10 intensity. Starting to open up. Exhaling as I go. And number 5. Now what I'm going to do is push my left heel into the floor. I'm pushing my palm and my elbow into the floor. And I'm using my left hand as a bolster to really get into this stretch. Just like that crossbody stretch we just did, I'm trying to open my chest toward the clubs. I feel a big stretch in the pecs. Okay, that feels good. Moving on to the left side, really focusing on that pec minor right here, which gets really tight in all of us. Just doing a couple scorpions. I like these scorpions as well because I'll get a nice adjustment in my SI joint. That right SI joint gets pretty tight. I just heard a big clunk. And I'm settling into the stretch and pushing my right heel down. I'm pushing my left palm and elbow down. Feeling a big stretch on this side. This side was affected also from that shoulder injury I mentioned. So I'll hold this side a bit longer. Pushing to about a 5 out of 10, not too hard. Okay, great. So if I'm going back to my right side to really focus on the pec now, I'm going to find a good angle with my right arm fully extended. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go right into it because I'm pretty warm. This side always feels a bit tight, so I have to adjust. And what I'm doing as I'm pushing my palm, my elbow down, I'm also trying to activate the muscles in my rear delt and around my shoulder blade to get that reciprocal inhibition. I'm trying to turn on my back so my front turns off. Just a little key to stretching right there. And remember, we are in our parasympathetic state. Rest and digest. I'm trying to stay relaxed as I do this. I'm not trying to fight my body. I do want to make change, but it's going to be on my body's terms. Okay, and next up, we're going to stretch those anterior deltoids. You might feel this in the bicep. Almost the same position as before. We are going to turn the arm so the top of the palm is down, and I'm going to scorpion into this side. Try and get low. Nice arm extension stretch. Feel this in the anterior deltoids and the biceps. Okay, that's not feeling too tight, thankfully. Move on to my left side, which is always a bit tighter. And I feel a big block here, so I'm just going to breathe through it. Okay, that feels good, feeling much more open. I feel some blood kind of rushing into my arms. My neck automatically feels a lot looser from doing that. Now let's get to the wrists and the forearms. A lot of people neglect stretching out their wrist flexors and wrist extensors, and I see a lot of people with very, very tight muscles there that could be causing some wrist pain especially. A lot of times people will complain about doing crawls or push-ups. Oh, I have wrist problems, this and that. They're probably just weak and they're probably just tight. So we got to take care of that. Here's how I like to do this stretch. Kind of just starting slow, dynamically. Fingers pointed toward my knees. I'm just rocking back and forth, generally about 10 reps on each side. So let's say we're at 20 right now. I'm going to find a good position. I'm just going to rock back over my fingers, focusing on the tight spots. I might go to one side, might go to the other side, make some half circles. This feels pretty good. Not too tight here, thankfully. I'll go fingers pointed forward, do the same thing, rocking over the tops of the fingers. And it's important to note, as I'm doing this wrist flexibility routine, I'm also pushing all of my digits hard into the mat. And when I do that, it takes away any potential wrist pain or blocks there because my muscles are getting more active into my arm. I'll go over the sides. I can feel this in my fingers as well, all these tight muscles. This would be a great one to do the half circles. Okay, that feels good. Moving on to my forearms. This one's tough for most people. Helps to kind of shake out the wrist. They can feel a little dull after doing the stretches. I'm gonna go fingers pointed in toward each other, pushing my fingernails into the mat, and some gentle rocks back and forth. Feel a big stretch in the top of the hands and also in those upper forearm muscles. I'll go fingers pointed out, so I'm internally rotated. It's a little bit tougher to rock on this one. So I'll do smaller rocks, trying to stay very active in my fingertips and my fingernails. And I'll get the biggest stretch, fingers pointed backward as I rock back onto the tops of my hands. And I'm just staying really active in those fingernails, pushing down. Feel a big stretch. Yeah, this one's tight. This one gets pretty tight in people from texting, driving, whatever they're doing. And as a bonus, so many people get texting thumb just from being on their phone so often. So a great way of stretching out your thumb is one at a time. And what I'm going to do is manually stretch my thumb all the way in. I feel a big stretch in my hand as I do that. So just using my opposite hand. Stretch out those muscles. And I'll hit the other side for good measure. And remember, guys, on this long stretch, experiment and do what feels good. You're going to find areas in your body that could really use some opening up. It's nice on this one to go into fists also. Go into fists and feel the top of the hands really stretching out. If it feels good, and you're not getting injured doing it, then it's okay to do. So that is the upper body, and we'll move on to the midsection next.